Kim felt the first traces of doubt creep into his mind. In 2 centuries of expansion, not once had a species responded with anything but terror or immediate surrender. "Begin a full psychological analysis of these humans," he ordered. "I want to understand what we're facing before the deadline expires." As night fell over Earth again, humanity prepared for whatever might come next, unaware that their simple bluff had already created the first cracks in the Imperium's confidence. Commander. Kim paced the bridge of the Imperium flagship, the human's message replaying for the 12th time on the main screen. "Ask the aliens in the Proxima Centauri system about us." The words bothered him more with each viewing. "Sir, we've completed the initial analysis of human communications," said Officer June, approaching with a data tablet. "It's unusual." Kim took the tablet, scanning the report with growing concern. The humans had no unified government, no single military force. Instead, they had thousands of years of internal conflicts, wars fought against themselves with increasingly deadly technology. "They've spent their entire history fighting each other?" Kim asked, disbelief evident in his voice. "Yes, Commander. And their historical records show numerous instances where technologically superior forces were defeated by smaller, more determined opponents." June highlighted several examples on the screen. Desert nomads defeating mechanized armies, farmers with primitive weapons outlasting global superpowers. Kim frowned. The Imperium's conquest strategy relied on overwhelming technological superiority and the psychological impact it created. Species typically surrendered rather than face destruction, but these humans had evolved alongside constant conflict. They had no psychological framework for immediate surrender. "What about Proxima Centauri?" Kim asked. "Could they somehow know about our survey probe that malfunctioned their last cycle?" "Impossible, sir. Their detection technology can't even monitor the outer edges of their own system." "Then they're bluffing," Kim said, but uncertainty crept into his voice. Back on Earth, Admiral Park's team worked around the clock, developing the next phase of their plan. They had bought time with their initial response, but the 72-hour deadline still loomed. "The key is to keep them guessing," Park told the assembled experts in the underground command center. "We need to make them believe we're more dangerous than we appear." Professor Gill, who had spent his career studying psychological warfare, nodded enthusiastically. "Throughout history, uncertainty has been a more powerful weapon than actual strength. The Spanish conquistadors were vastly outnumbered, but the Aztecs hesitated because they couldn't assess the threat." "We need to feed their uncertainty," agreed Dr. Bay. "Make them question everything they think they know about us." The plan came together quickly. Earth would respond not with threats or pleas, but with information, carefully selected and edited information about human warfare. Resilience and unpredictability. 48 hours after the alien arrival, Earth broadcast its second message to the Imperium vessel. This time, it wasn't just words, but a compilation of historical footage. Guerrilla fighters in dense jungles bringing mechanized armies to a standstill. Desert fighters using simple improvised devices to disable advanced vehicles. Urban resistance movements operating for years despite overwhelming opposition. The broadcast included narration in clear, simple language. "Throughout human history, we have adapted to overcome superior forces. We fight differently than any species you have encountered. We do not stop. We do not surrender. We learn, adapt, and continue." The message ended with Admiral Park speaking directly to camera. "We've analyzed your vessel. Impressive, but not invulnerable. We've identified 17 potential structural weaknesses. Perhaps you should extend your deadline while you reconsider." This was another calculated bluff. Earth's scientists had identified unusual energy patterns in the alien ship, but nothing close to actual vulnerabilities. The number 17 was chosen simply because it sounded specific enough to be believable. In the hours that followed, Park authorized the accidental release of classified military files, documents showing theoretical countermeasures against advanced energy weapons, plans for dispersed resistance in case of planetary occupation, and analysis of potential alien biology weaknesses. All were research papers, speculations by military think tanks over decades, but presented as operational plans. The leaked documents spread rapidly across the internet, picked up by news organizations worldwide before government agencies scrambled to contain them. The entire leak was orchestrated, designed to be captured by the Imperium's monitoring systems. Aboard the flagship, Commander Kim stared at the growing collection of human military data with deepening concern. His intelligence officers had intercepted the leaked documents and translated them immediately. "These humans have been preparing for extraterrestrial conflict for decades," said senior analyst Min, pointing to diagrams of theoretical energy dispersion shields. "They've developed countermeasures for technologies they haven't even encountered yet, but their actual technology is primitive," Kim argued, though with less conviction than before. "They've barely reached their own moon." "That's what makes them dangerous, sir," replied Min. "Look at their historical pattern. They adapt rapidly, they're resourceful, and most concerning, she highlighted a section of psychological analysis. They become more unified and determined when facing external threats." Kim studied the screen, noticing how global communications had shifted since their arrival. Nations that had been hostile toward each other were now coordinating responses. Military forces that had been rivals were sharing information. "Sir," interrupted Communications Officer Lee, "we're detecting unusual energy signatures from their lunar installations. They appear to be powering up systems that weren't active when we arrived." Kim frowned. Their scans had shown the lunar bases to be primarily research stations with minimal defensive capabilities. Had they missed something? The massive alien ship appeared without warning in Earth's orbit on a quiet Tuesday morning. It simply materialized, defying known physics, hanging above the planet like a metallic moon. Communication systems worldwide buzzed with static before, clearing to reveal a single, unified broadcast. Admiral Park leaned forward in his command chair at the South Pacific Defense Headquarters, his weathered hands gripping the armrests. At 57, he had spent his life preparing for threats, but nothing like this. "Sir, they're broadcasting on all frequencies," said Lieutenant Han, her voice steady despite the fear evident in her eyes. "They're speaking English." The main screen flickered to life, showing not an alien face as everyone expected, but simply text scrolling across a starfield background. "People of Earth," the message began, "we are the Galactic Imperium, rulers of 17 sectors and over 200 worlds. Your technological advancement has been monitored and deemed a potential threat to galactic stability. You will surrender all military capabilities and accept Imperium rule within 72 Earth hours, or face immediate pacification. Resistance is historically futile." The command center fell silent. 600 miles above them hung a vessel that had appeared from nowhere, demanding Earth's surrender. Global communication channels exploded with panic, fear, and confused speculation. "Get me everything we have on the vessel," Park ordered, his voice deliberately calm. "Size, composition, energy readings, and I want to analyze that transmission. Every detail." Teams of scientists and military analysts worked through the night. The alien vessel measured nearly 8 kilometers in length, dwarfing anything humans had built. It generated energy readings that suggested weapons capable of devastating entire continents. But Park noticed something odd during his third review of the transmission. There was a pattern in the background frequency, a subtle vibration that seemed inconsistent with the confident message. "Play it again," he told Senior Technician Yoon. "Filter out everything but that background frequency." When isolated, the pattern became clearer, rapid, almost nervous fluctuations. "Sir," said Dr. Kang, the team's xenolinguistics expert, "in human communication, this pattern would indicate stress or anxiety. If their communication systems work anything like ours—" Park nodded slowly. "They're nervous. Why would a vastly superior force be nervous about demanding our surrender?" He called an emergency meeting with a small team he personally selected: military strategists, historians, psychologists, and linguists. They gathered in a secure underground facility, while above them, world leaders debated surrender terms. "The Imperium claims to have conquered hundreds of worlds," Park said to the assembled specialists. "But what if they haven't actually fought wars in generations? What if their conquests come from intimidation alone? They're counting on us to be terrified by their technology, said Professor Gill, a military historian, and most species probably surrender immediately. But humans have something unique, added Dr. Bay, tapping her tablet to project historical war footage onto the wall. We have thousands of years of fighting against each other, often with mismatched technology. Vietnam, Afghanistan, countless guerrilla campaigns where superior technology lost to determination and adaptability. The team worked through the night, analyzing Earth's options. The alien ship remained silent after its initial message, simply waiting for Earth's response. If we surrender, we lose everything, Park said as dawn broke. If we threaten them, they might strike first. But what if we make them second-guess their own advantage? The plan came together quickly. While the United Nations Security Council prepared standard diplomatic responses, Park's team crafted something different, a psychological operation aimed at the apparent nervousness they detected. 24 hours after the alien arrival, Park stood before a global broadcast system. The plan had been approved in secret by a coalition of world governments willing to try anything before surrender. We will transmit directly to their vessel, he told the operators. No public broadcast. Park straightened his uniform and faced the camera. His expression showed no fear, only calm certainty. Galactic Imperium, he began, we have received your message. Throughout human history, we have never won our wars through superior strength, but through sheer, stubborn persistence. You should ask your outpost in the Proxima Centauri system about us. He paused deliberately, allowing the bluff to sink in. Earth had never encountered aliens before this moment, but the Imperium wouldn't know that with certainty. We do not seek conflict, but neither will we surrender what is ours. You have demanded an answer within 72 hours. You have your answer now. Earth stands ready. The transmission ended. Park turned to his team, their faces showing a mixture of hope and terror at what they'd just done. Now we wait, he said quietly, and we prepare. Aboard the Imperium flagship, Commander Kim stared at the human's message in confusion. He turned to his intelligence officer. Check our records for Proxima Centauri. Have we lost contact with any outposts there? No outposts established in that system, Commander, replied the officer after consulting his data. But these humans speak with unusual confidence for a pre-interstellar species. Sir, should we commence the pacification sequence? Asked his second-in-command. We still have overwhelming firepower advantage. Kim stared at the blue-green planet on the view screen. Something didn't feel right. In 2 centuries of Imperium expansion, no species had responded like this. There was no panic in their communications, no desperate pleas or threats. Instead, there was this calm, almost confident preparation, as if they welcomed the conflict. Request. An extension of the assessment period from Central Command, Kim finally ordered. Tell them we've encountered unusual circumstances that require further evaluation. As his officers transmitted the request, Kim continued studying the human broadcasts. He didn't realize he had just given Earth exactly what Admiral Park had hoped for: more time. The extension granted by Commander Kim gave Earth precisely what it needed: time. While the massive alien vessel remained in orbit, Admiral Park gathered his expanding team in the underground command center that had become their home. We've bought ourselves an additional 48 hours, Park announced, his voice showing. The strain of 3 days with minimal sleep. They're hesitating, which means our strategy is working. Director Lee of Global Intelligence slid a tablet across the table. We've been monitoring their communications. They're broadcasting significantly. More internal messages than before. The frequency patterns suggest increased discussion, possibly disagreement. Perfect, said Professor Gill, the military historian who had become central to their psychological strategy. Doubt is contagious, especially in rigid hierarchical structures, and I'm betting the Imperium hasn't faced real resistance in generations. The room fell silent as everyone considered the implications. They were gambling the fate of humanity on the psychological profile of an alien species they'd known about for less than a week. What's our next move? Asked Dr. Bay, the team's lead psychologist. Admiral Park looked at the tactical display showing the alien vessel's position. We need to deepen their uncertainty, make them question not just our capabilities, but their own intelligence about us. The plan they developed was audacious. For the next 24 hours, Earth would broadcast a carefully curated series of documentaries and historical accounts focusing on humanity's most improbable military victories, but with subtle, almost undetectable edits. We'll include just enough truth to make verification difficult, explained Technical Director Yoon. Remember, they're working with limited understanding of our languages and history. The broadcasts began that evening, tales of the 300 Spartans at Thermopylae, but edited to suggest they ultimately prevailed. Accounts of indigenous resistance against colonial powers, modified to imply technological advantages that never existed. Stories of successful rebellions against occupying forces, with casualty figures altered to seem impossibly one-sided. Scattered throughout were mentions of humanity's unique biological advantages: enhanced night vision, extraordinary pain, tolerance, rapid healing, and extreme temperature adaptation. All were exaggerations of actual human capabilities, presented as common traits. Meanwhile, military bases around the world implemented visible but meaningless changes to their security protocols. Lights reconfigured, personnel movements increased, unusual equipment transported between facilities, all designed to be easily observed by the watching alien vessel. Aboard the Imperium flagship, the command deck had become tense. Junior officers whispered among themselves when Commander Kim wasn't present. Intelligence analysts argued over contradictory human broadcasts. Their historical accounts don't align with their biological profiles, complained Analyst Min during the daily briefing. Either they're deliberately feeding us contradictory information, or our translation systems are failing. Or they're simply lying, suggested Officer June. About their own history. What would be the purpose, countered Min. Commander Kim listened to the debate with growing frustration. He had requested the assessment extension based on his instinct that something wasn't right about these humans. Now that decision was being questioned by his own crew. Commander, you should see this, called Communications Officer Lee from his station. We've intercepted what appears to be a classified transmission between their military bases. The message appeared on the main screen. Technical specifications for something called adaptive shielding technology, supposedly capable of dispersing energy weapons. The document included test results showing 87% effectiveness against directed energy weapons similar to Imperium technology. Is this possible? Kim asked his science team. Chief Science Officer Tak studied the specifications carefully. The principles are sound, but implementation would require. He hesitated. Actually, I'm not certain. Their approach is different from ours. They're using material interaction in ways we haven't explored. Could it work against our pacification beams? Possibly, Tak admitted. I can't definitively rule it out. The doubt that Kim had felt begin days earlier now spread visibly through his command staff. An officer from the weapons division spoke up. Sir, if there's even a small chance their defenses could withstand our initial strike, we should reconsider the pacification order. Standard protocol assumes minimal resistance and rapid surrender. Are you suggesting we abandon the mission? Kim asked sharply. No, sir, but perhaps we should request reinforcements before proceeding. The suggestion hung in the air. Requesting reinforcements would be an admission that the flagship, the pride of the Imperium fleet, might not be sufficient to handle a pre-interstellar civilization. We were chosen for this mission because of our record, Kim reminded them. 27 worlds have joined the Imperium under our guidance, all of which surrendered immediately, a junior officer pointed out, then quickly lowered his eyes when Kim glared at him. Back on Earth, Admiral Park received the news he'd been hoping for. Their monitoring systems had detected a significant increase in communications between the alien vessel and distant points, presumably Imperium Central Command. They're asking for instructions, Park told his team. Their confidence is shaken. Time for the next phase, Professor Gill suggested. We need something visual, something they can see but not easily verify. Director Lee nodded in agreement. The holographic projection system. It's ready. The system had been developed as an experimental defensive technology, creating false radar and visual signatures to confuse incoming missiles. Repurposed and dramatically expanded, it might create the illusion of military capabilities Earth didn't actually possess. At sunset, as the alien vessel orbited over the Pacific Ocean, the system activated. From apparent hidden bases on the Moon and Mars, actually nothing more than small research outposts, hundreds of small, fast-moving craft seemed to emerge. The holographic ships used movement patterns unlike anything in human military doctrine, performing maneuvers that would kill a human pilot. Simultaneously, Earth broadcast what appeared to be internal military communications, accidentally transmitted, on frequencies the aliens could monitor. Autonomous defense fleet deployed, holding formation at designated coordinates, weapon systems showing green across all platforms. Aboard the Imperium flagship, alarms sounded as sensors detected the sudden appearance of hundreds of small vessels. "Where did they come from?" demanded Commander Kim, staring at the tactical display in disbelief. "How did we miss these installations?" "Unknown, sir," replied his tactical officer, voice tight with tension. "They appear to be using some form of propulsion we haven't encountered before. No heat signatures." Kim watched as the small craft formed precise defensive patterns around Earth. His certainty, already undermined by days of increasingly concerning intelligence, crumbled further. "Contact Central Command," he ordered. "Request immediate consultation on mission parameters." As the request went out, Kim didn't notice the growing unrest among his junior officers or the whispered conversations taking place throughout the ship. The seed of doubt had taken root and was beginning to flower into something more dangerous. Rear Admiral Park stood before the holographic display in the command center, watching the simulated fleet of Earth vessels dance around the alien ship in perfect formation. The illusion was magnificent. Hundreds of small, agile craft performing maneuvers that would kill any human pilot. Because, of course, there were no pilots. There were no ships at all. "How long can we maintain the projection?" Park asked, his voice low. Technical Director Yoon checked her systems. 18 hours at current power levels. After that, the generators will need to cool down or risk permanent damage. "It might be enough," Professor Gill said, studying the alien vessel's reaction. Their monitoring systems had detected increased energy fluctuations from the Imperium ship, signs of activity, perhaps agitation. They've increased communications with their home base by 300% in the last hour. Park nodded slowly. The deception was working better than they had dared hope. The holographic fleet was just phase 1 of their most audacious plan yet, a plan they called the Doomsday Protocol. "Begin phase 2, he ordered. Across Earth, carefully prepared broadcasts began transmitting on frequencies the aliens were known to monitor. These weren't directed at the Imperium ship, but appeared to be internal communications between military commands, governments, and scientific installations. All were crafted to be just secure enough that the aliens would feel they were intercepting classified information. In military bases, commanders discussed deployment schedules for sleeper ships, supposedly hidden throughout the solar system. Government communications referenced generational warriors, humans supposedly trained from birth for space combat and infiltration. Scientific facilities exchanged data on neural implant technology that allowed human soldiers to function without sleep for weeks. None of it was real, but all of it was presented with just enough technical detail, just enough casual reference to make it difficult for the aliens to dismiss. Lieutenant Han approached Admiral Park with a tablet. "Sir, we've detected energy spikes from 3 points on the alien vessel. They might be preparing weapons." Park had expected this. "Keep the holographic fleet in defensive posture only, no aggressive moves." The last thing they needed was to provoke an actual attack. The holographic ships might look impressive, but they couldn't stop real weapons. "Transmit the Doomsday Protocol message," he ordered. "All frequencies." The message was broadcast globally, appearing to be an emergency transmission that had accidentally breached security protocols. It outlined Earth's supposed final defense strategy. If the planet fell, automated sleeper ships carrying millions of human soldiers would launch toward every known Imperium world, programmed for generational warfare and infiltration. The ships were described as already positioned throughout the solar system, ready to scatter at the first sign of planetary bombardment. "We cannot be exterminated," the broadcast concluded. Even in defeat, humanity will spread throughout the galaxy, and the Imperium will face centuries of internal conflict. Victory against Earth ensures your own destruction. Aboard the Imperium flagship, Commander Kim stared at the translated message. In horror, "Is this possible?" he demanded of his science team. "Could they have hidden ships throughout their system?" Chief Science Officer Tak looked uncomfortable. "Our initial scans were focused on the planet itself and its immediate orbit. If they used minimal power signatures and positioned ships in the outer system, but the resources required," Kim argued, "their technology level is difficult to assess accurately," Tak interrupted, something he had never done before. "Commander, these humans display technological inconsistencies that defy our understanding. Their space capabilities seemed primitive, yet now we detect ships using propulsion methods we can't identify. Their weapons technology appeared basic, yet they discuss countermeasures to our systems with troubling specificity." Kim turned to his tactical display, watching the small Earth vessels maintaining their defensive formation. They had made no aggressive moves, yet their very existence challenged everything intelligence had told him about this species. "Sir," called Communications Officer Lee, "we're detecting unusual communications from the engineering section." Kim frowned. "Put it through." "No, sir," Lee said, looking uncomfortable. "Internal communications between our crew members." The implication was clear. The crew was talking among themselves, questioning, doubting, perhaps even challenging command decisions. This was unprecedented in Kim's experience. He opened a ship-wide channel. "This is Commander Kim. We are continuing to assess the Earth situation. Maintain standard protocols. Any concerns should be directed through proper command channels." As he closed the communication, his second-in-command approached quietly. "Sir, there's something you should know. 3 crew members in the weapons division have refused direct orders to prepare targeting solutions for Earth cities." "Refused orders?" Kim couldn't hide his shock. That's mutiny. "They claim the pacification protocol is inappropriate, given new intelligence about human defensive capabilities. They've cited Imperium Regulation 5.3, which allows for refusal of orders that might endanger the mission through unnecessary provocation." Kim felt his control slipping away. The crew's doubt was turning into active resistance. On Earth, Admiral, Park received the news with cautious optimism. Their sensors indicated power fluctuations throughout the alien vessel, suggesting internal activity that departed from previous patterns. "Something's happening up there," Director Lee said, analyzing the data. "Energy distribution is becoming erratic. They're either preparing for some major operation or their command structure is breaking down," finished Professor Gill. "Precisely as we hoped," Park nodded slowly. "Time for the final push." He turned to communications. "Prepare the diplomatic channel. I'll speak directly to their commander." The message was simple, delivered by Admiral Park with calm confidence. "Commander of the Imperium vessel, we understand you face a difficult decision. You were sent to accept our surrender, but instead found a species unlike any you've encountered before. We do not seek conflict with the Imperium, but neither will we surrender our sovereignty. I propose a direct communication between us to discuss terms that might benefit both our peoples." The offer was a lifeline to a commander increasingly trapped between his mission parameters and the reality he faced, a way to justify delay, negotiation, perhaps even a complete mission reassessment. Aboard the Imperium vessel, the message arrived as Commander Kim faced growing dissent. The weapons officers weren't the only ones questioning orders now. Engineering had reported concerns about power allocation for weapons systems. Intelligence analysts had submitted formal requests for mission parameter review. "Sir," said his second-in-command cautiously, "accepting communication might provide valuable intelligence." Kim recognized the suggestion for what it was, a diplomatic way to avoid executing the pacification order that increasingly seemed like a potential disaster. "Open the channel," he ordered, hoping he wasn't making a mistake that would end his career or worse. As the connection established, Kim found himself looking at the calm, determined face of Admiral Park. Neither man knew it, but this conversation, built entirely on a foundation of human deception, would change the course of galactic history. The communication screen flickered momentarily before stabilizing, creating a direct link between the underground Earth Command Center and the Imperium flagship hovering in orbit. Admiral Park stood tall, his uniform pressed and pristine despite days without proper rest. On the screen before him appeared Commander Kim, whose alien features reflected a strain that transcended species barriers. "Admiral Park," the alien commander began, his translation system converting his words to flawless English. "I am authorized to discuss alternative arrangements regarding Earth's integration into the Imperium." Park allowed himself no visible reaction, though his heart pounded in his chest. The word surrender had been noticeably absent from Kim's statement. Already they had achieved what seemed impossible days ago, forcing the Imperium to negotiate rather than demand. "Commander Kim," Park replied evenly, "Earth appreciates the opportunity for dialogue. Our position remains unchanged. We will not surrender our sovereignty. However, we are open to discussing mutual recognition and potential cooperation." The Admiral's words had been carefully chosen in consultation with the team of psychologists, linguists and strategic experts who had crafted Earth's deception from the beginning. Each phrase was designed to project confidence while offering the alien commander a face-saving alternative to conflict. On the Imperium ship, Kim felt the weight of hundreds of eyes upon him. His bridge crew watched the exchange with rapt attention. The last 72 hours had transformed their routine pacification mission into something unprecedented in recent Imperium history, a standoff with a supposedly primitive species that somehow possessed capabilities intelligence had completely failed to identify. "The Imperium acknowledges Earth's unique position," Kim said carefully. "We propose recognition of Earth as a special autonomous zone within Imperium space." Behind Park, out of view of the transmission, Professor Gill pumped his fist in silent victory. This was exactly the outcome they had hoped for, the Imperium creating a completely new classification to avoid admitting defeat, while still essentially granting Earth its independence. Such an arrangement would need to include guarantees of non-interference in Earth governance and development, Park countered, maintaining his professional demeanor despite the surge of hope he felt, and recognition of Earth's defensive sphere throughout our solar system. The negotiation continued for hours, with breaks for consultation that both sides desperately needed, Earth's team to calibrate their next deceptive moves, and Kim to manage the increasingly fractured command structure of his vessel. During one such break, Lieutenant Han approached Park with urgent news. "Sir, our deep space monitoring station in Australia has detected unusual energy signatures, multiple objects approaching from the direction of Imperium space." Park felt a chill. Had they miscalculated? Were reinforcements coming to force Earth's surrender? "Time to arrival?" he asked quietly. "At current speeds, approximately 60 hours. Too soon for any response they might send now." Their only hope was to conclude the negotiations before the new arrivals changed the equation. When communications resumed, Park noticed immediately that Kim seemed more agitated than before. The commander's posture was stiffer, his translated speech pattern more formal. "Earth must understand," Kim said, "that while the Imperium respects your unique cultural and defensive position, certain protocols must be observed. An Imperium representative must be permitted to establish a small monitoring outpost." It was a face-saving measure, Park realized. Kim needed to show his superiors that he had gained something from the negotiation. A small concession now might secure Earth's future. A single outpost would be acceptable, Park agreed, provided it remained strictly observational with no weapons systems or military personnel. As they finalized the details, Park couldn't help but wonder what had caused the Imperium to back down from its initial demands. The holographic fleet, the false threat of sleeper ships, or perhaps something deeper, something about humanity itself that the aliens found disturbing. 12 hours later, as the agreement was formally recorded, the answer became clear. During the final transmission, Kim made a statement that sent ripples of shock through Earth's command center. "The Imperium acknowledges Earth as the first autonomous allied world in our history," the commander said. "Your species' unusual development path, evolving through continuous internal conflict rather than cooperative advancement, has produced qualities the Imperium finds valuable to study rather than suppress. The transmission ended, and within hours, the massive alien vessel began moving away from Earth, taking up a position near the Moon, close enough to maintain communications, but far enough to signal non-aggression. In C, the privacy of the command center, Earth's leadership finally allowed themselves to celebrate. They had bluffed their way to independence against a force that could have destroyed them without effort. "I still can't believe it worked," said Director Lee, slumping into a chair. "All of it. Holographic projections, fake documents, manufactured communications." "It worked," said Professor Gill, "because we understood something fundamental about power. The Imperium conquered through intimidation because it worked on other species. They hadn't faced actual resistance in so long that the mere possibility of it created psychological paralysis." Admiral Park studied the tactical display showing the retreating alien vessel. "We need to know the truth," he said quietly. The truth came 2 days later when the approaching energy signatures Lieutenant Han had detected arrived in Earth's solar system. They were indeed Imperium vessels, not battleships, but diplomatic and scientific ships responding to Commander Kim's reports of a unique species requiring specialized integration procedures. Through careful information gathering during the ensuing diplomatic exchanges, Earth's leaders discovered the stunning reality. The Galactic Imperium, despite its imposing technology and vast territorial claims, had conquered over 200 species through intimidation alone. Their military, while impressive, had gone untested against actual resistance for centuries. The Imperium wasn't weak, their technology was as advanced as it appeared, but psychologically they had developed a critical vulnerability. After generations of easy conquests, they had lost the will and experience necessary to face determined opposition. When confronted with a species that projected confidence rather than fear, their entire conquest strategy collapsed. In the months that followed, humanity leveraged this psychological advantage to negotiate increasingly favorable terms. Earth representatives, led by Admiral Park, crafted careful personas of confident, unpredictable negotiators with mysterious capabilities always held in reserve. 1 year after first contact, Earth had achieved something unprecedented: full membership in the Imperium Council as an equal rather than a subject, with humans quickly gaining reputations as the galaxy's most formidable diplomats and potential adversaries. In a private moment, as Park prepared for his first journey to the Imperium, capital as Earth's ambassador, he reflected on the irony of their victory. Humanity's greatest weapon hadn't been technology or military might, but understanding how fear worked, how doubt spread, and how perception could be more powerful than reality. "We never fired a shot," he said to Professor Gilly, as they boarded the diplomatic vessel. "We won because we understood psychology better than they understood technology." Gill smiled. "Perhaps that's humanity's true gift to the galaxy, not our science or our art, but our understanding of minds, even alien ones." As Earth's first diplomatic mission departed for the stars, they carried with them the most powerful weapon in the galaxy, not one of destruction, but of perception, carefully crafted through the art of strategic deception.